Hello, welcome everyone who has joined us. This is Ukraine Media Center at Ukraine Forum. It is at the 9th year of the war, at 222nd day of our fight for our freedom. We are grateful to the journalists telling the truth about this fight. Right now we are going to discuss the preparation for the winter heating season. We are going to speak with Oleksiy Chernyshov, Minister for Communities and Territories Development. Hello. Oleksiy, to which extent are our regions ready for the beginning of the heating season? Let us discuss the challenges ahead. Thank you so much for this subject. It is indeed very relevant, not only in Ukraine, but also all around Europe. This year, the heating season is very challenging, and these are the parameters we have to work in. So, if you permit, I will briefly present the main stages of preparation for the heating season. So the preparations have started in advance. Actually, they usually start after the end of the previous heating season. For all the year, the community were getting ready for the next winter season, and so we have to point out right now that the level of preparedness of all the equipments and networks of the housing infrastructure, it's about 97% ready on average in Ukraine. So we are planning at the forthcoming meeting of our headquarters, which is going to take place on the 4th of October. We are going to announce the 100% readiness of all the systems for the heating season. So what are the challenges and what are the differences? The thing I have presented now is the work we were doing each year in the cities, getting ready with the systems of centralized heating and hot water supply. This year, the challenges are the availability of resources, which are natural gas and coal, and the second one is the destructions that have already happened because of the aggression and the damage that can potentially happen in terms of critical infrastructure. If you permit, I would like to begin with the first issue, the availability of resources, which is very challenging not only for Ukraine, but also for the countries of Western Europe even. So Ukraine worked quite closely on getting ready the stores of natural gas. Our intention is to have about 4.5 billion cubic meters of natural gas. We have already amassed about 14 billion, so we are close to the target number. Also this year we are intending to get ready with the unprecedented volume of coal. We plan to have 2.5 million tons of it, and also we are right now approaching the number of 2 million of the coal that's actually available. So if we count the warehouses of the enterprises and other places where coal is kept. So in terms of resources, we are quite ready for the heating season. And speaking of the infrastructure condition, we know that the at least 350 boiler houses were damaged. The damage continues. We understand it's not the end yet, but the work has been done in advance in the occupied regions. We are seeing a recovery of the heating infrastructure for the last months. Akhtirka, Kremenchuk, and Chernihiv are the major locations funded from the budget. The recovery there will be completed, so the heat will be available in the beginning of the winter season. Next, we have Kharkiv thermal power plant, which is going to be restored according to the schedule as well. So we have developed the crisis response plans at the level of each of the regions. In some places, they were already fully implemented, and I'm sure that the regions are ready for such challenges. Hopefully, we will not see many of them happening. So you were speaking about Kharkiv region, and we understand that thanks to our military, Kharkiv region has almost entirely been liberated. But is there any chance that in some places it will not be possible to resume heating season? And if this will happen, do you advise people to evacuate from those places temporarily if the infrastructure has been damaged by the occupiers? Well, we need to keep every Ukrainian warm, and these are not just words, it's our real goal. You're right about the deoccupied parts of Kharkiv region. We have specialized commissions from the Ministry of Regional Development, Social Policy, etc. Wherever possible, the heating season will be resumed and Ukrainians will be kept warm. Right now, active work is underway to resume gas supply to the territories of Donetsk region. We are working quite closely on this issue, and surely wherever in those communities or territories where central heating will not be provided, and there will be no opportunity to provide heating to apartment buildings, we recommend those communities to choose another approach. There is a working group guided by the Vice Prime Minister, Ms. Vereshchuk, and the evacuation will be happening from such locations. But once again, this winter we intend to keep every Ukrainian warm, and this will be accomplished. Now, speaking of the owners of single-family houses, will they be supported by the government by means of supplies of coal or firewood or whatever? Yes, wherever there is access to natural gas, first and foremost, it will be delivered and provided. We know that the price of natural gas is for now being kept stable by the government. And wherever there are some challenges with gas availability, we will stimulate the communities to support their population, and the necessary support will be provided through military, civilian administrations by means of supporting people with firewood or other forms of fuel. Oleksiy, do you have any advice for our citizens? We understand that not everything depends on the government. Some steps need to be made by each and every one of us. So what can this be? Well, speaking of advice, I have only one advice. Please consume responsibly. We have to be careful with the natural resources we have. Right now, Russia has basically announced war, which has an energy component in it. And natural gas is the Russia's weapon. So we have to be very careful when using it. And actually, the role of the government right now is to make sure that the resource is available. Natural gas, first and foremost. And then this gas has to be delivered to the cities by the regional administrations. So the heat needs to be produced and delivered to people's apartments. Meanwhile, the citizens have to be very careful in their consumption. So the ministry has developed very simple and useful advice. We know that other institutions are also getting ready with the same. So the idea is, if you live in an apartment building, you need to test your windows, making sure that your windows and your doors are protecting the heat in your living place. Also the roofs, if they are sealed well. So these are simple things, but they have to be at work. We need to get ready with those elements of preparation. Also, we need to be ready, and I hope that this will not happen, but if there is any limitation or temporary halt of heat supply, you also need to understand what is going to happen in such a situation. There need to be a room prepared beforehand, and you need to cooperate with your neighbors, etc. But the main thing is to be very frugal this year. So this is an element of the military operation. In essence, we have to be very careful with our electricity and gas consumption, and if we save, we will all be warm in winter. We will have enough light. We need to do away with the habits of the past, where people simply didn't count their energy costs. We need to forget about open windows in winter, and we need to be responsible with our consumption. So some questions from the studio, dear colleagues. I'm Vladislav Obukhov, Ukraine Forum. 2 questions. So the first one is about providing 1,300,000,000 hryvnias for the procurement of mini boilers and generators. Is this money being used effectively in the regions free from the enemy? Are there any outsiders in this? And the second question is about the issue of compensation for the price differences for service providers. It's important not only for them directly, but also for territorial communities, and we heard that it was going to begin soon. So what is the amount, and when is this compensation going to start? Thank you so much for these questions. Indeed, I actually wanted to say this in my introductory word. There are some additional measures prepared by the government and also local governments as well to respond to the situation and to be ready for the possible disruptions in the supplies. Since the beginning of summer, we have started the program of stimulating cities in terms of preparation of their equipment. there are three types of the equipment, which includes generators, modular, boiler rooms working on different types of fuel, and also the modular setups for water supply. So their intention is to provide temporary solutions in terms of heat and water supply in case of any destructions or any repair works, for the water to be available, let's say, for 1, 2 or 3 days necessary to resume the heat supply, the water supply, or the electricity supply. So there are different areas of this work. The communities are investing or buying modular equipment. Second, our international partners are quite active. We know that USAID works in 19 regions. There are UN programs. There are ULEAD programs with support of Europe. And also there is a government program. Some funds are being provided for the procurement of powerful modular setups, powerful modular boiler rooms, and also mobile equipment for the cleansing and delivery of water. So in these 4 areas, this work is underway, and the necessary amount of the equipment will be provided soon. Can these substitute the continuous supply of heat and electricity? Surely not. They are sufficient to partially substitute the needs for a limited time. They cannot substitute the uninterrupted supply, but these are our backup reserves. Speaking of the differences in prices, this is indeed a very important precondition of the heating season. Economically speaking, the necessary resolutions of the government and some laws by the parliament have been passed, and thus 14 billion hryvnias will be provided for this compensation of differences. We hope that this is going to be implemented by the end of this year, but I like to emphasize that the debts that right now exist between the enterprises and Naftogaz, they are not the reason for not signing the new contracts. They are signed, the majority of them are signed already, despite the debts. Other questions?
Chris, I'm a freelance journalist from the United States. Thank you for speaking with us today. I have 2 questions. For context, I've been lately reporting in the Borodyanka and Adrivka regions and speaking with residents who live in apartment blocks, but also single-family homes that have either been destroyed or heavily damaged. And I'm concerned that they're not going to have adequate shelter for the winter. Many of the residents of the apartment blocks are elderly and pensioners, and some of them live alone. And most of them have said that they, A, don't know how to ask for assistance from the government, and B, officials from the government have come out occasionally, but not very frequently. And many of them are very concerned that they're not going to receive assistance in time for winter. They have broken windows, broken doors. In Borodyanka, some of the apartment blocks have walls that are being held up by sticks to try to prevent them from collapsing, and they are concerned that they're not going to receive assistance. So I'm wondering what programs are in place to address these concerns. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I heard your question in Ukrainian. That's why I'm responding in Ukrainian. Thank you so much for paying attention to these issues. They are indeed very challenging, and I'm sure the government and communities will cope with this. We will do our best to restore the social infrastructure and housing that was damaged. So, for our understanding, just for the 4 deoccupied regions, we have right now 50,000 damaged or destroyed elements of property. The majority of them are houses. So what's being made there? First and foremost, we have launched a couple of programs to ensure the proper housing for the limited period. Of course, recovery cannot happen immediately. It takes some time, it takes some money, so we need to be clear about this, and we need to have safety and security factors in place for those territories to have stable peace. So I'd like to point out the following. There are some programs for the people that unfortunately found themselves in such situations. First, there is a shelter program, which implies the free provision of housing to Ukrainians whose housing has been destroyed. So the families, the owners who are hosting IDPs, they get the compensation for their utility payments. We have increased the amount recently. It is right now 900 hryvnias per month per person. We also have people still staying in the communities. We have modular housing programs. We are implementing 20 such modular camps, 11 of which have been already opened. We are doing this together with the Polish government, and by the end of the year we are planning to have at least 20 of such camps in total. So they are, of course, temporary housing for the time of the recovery. And the most important thing here is that there are programs available at the level of regions. The government has provided in total over 3 billion hryvnias for the recovery, and first and foremost for the quick repairs of those infrastructure elements that we can quickly repair, such as windows, roofs, and doors. So this is the priority that we have for now. There is a social housing program. Unfortunately, its scope is limited, but it is in place already. So in the deoccupied regions of Zhytomyr, Chernihiv, Kyiv, and Sumy, we have this opportunity, and some number of people have already received the social housing, so their apartments in which they can live for a certain time while their apartments are being restored. And there are also other regional and national programs. I am fully aware that we will not be able to recover all the housing that has been destroyed before the beginning of this winter. But we need to make sure that every Ukrainian has some housing before the beginning of the upcoming winter. So one option is to have the repaired housing that was damaged. In this case, we imply that there are small repairs. Then there is a shelter program. Then there is a modular camp program and social housing program. So these are the key areas we are working in. Thank you so much, Oleksiy. Thank you for finding time to join us. This was Oleksiy Chernyshov, the Minister for Communities and Territories Development of Ukraine. And let's keep working for our victory. Thank you.